everybody. Welcome to the Football 360 show, fastest hour football talk on the planet. There's our social medias, as you can see. Producer Joe right on top of it. JP Rock MO on X. JP Rock Scout U. Matt Bierman here with me, as always. Matt, your socials are
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
Reach out, go ahead, ask us a question. When you go to the YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, share. Same thing with X and Instagram as well. Tell your friends, tell your family, let everybody know. And you can also catch us on Spotify, correct?
Apple
as well as Apple. If you just want to do the podcast, are you a podcast only guy, or do you like watching
my
the
car?
streams?
Just podcasts, obviously, but then I don't know. I do a lot of YouTube.
See,
I will, in my office,
and I probably shouldn't do this. If this is wrong, then I don't do it. But I will do the YouTube on my car.
Yeah, I mean,
so
yeah.
So you know what? Especially the Football 360 show.
Of course, right? You can't. It's got to get the full experience.
The full experience. You want to check it all out. Tuesday, April the 15th, 2025. Time is flying. This year is just flying by, man. It seems like the other day we were talking about the middle school elite football combine happening on February 17th. Right? We were talking to people about that. And now here we are.
That seems like a distant memory.
Seems like a way distant memory. And it's it's crazy that football is really here. You got spring practice going on next month in May. People are going to be picking up their equipment.
Well, yeah, right? And college coaches can hit the road today. So
yeah,
there'll be coaches now. I think the next 20 some odd days will be on the road and
going to some of these
going to
school.
Practices. Yeah, hopefully they're going to spring practices and good thing for kids to let coaches know what their schedules are. I mean, obviously they can't make everybody's practices,
correct,
because everybody's kind of do it at the same time,
right? But you want to be proactive, and so that's going on. I mean, like I said, and then camp. It's going to be no time, and your highly touted quarterback son is going to be picking up his gear for his first practice as a freshman.
Yeah. And his summer camp schedule is going to be pretty crazy too. So yeah, we're trying to weigh all that stuff out and how to get places and
talk about time flying by. So a lot to talk about. We got that going on to talk about. We got some more camps and combine stuff. Lindenwood's right around the corner. KC Varsity Combine's happening May the 3rd. St. Louis Metro Football Coaches Showcase is on the 12th. And then it's just on.
You need to be preparing. If you're not preparing, you're get left in the dirt. I mean, and honestly, what happens is so many kids think that their other sport is preparing them for football, and they show up and they realize there's been kids training since January,
right,
that are playing football, and they're just not ready.
Exactly. And we were talking about it, and you really see the difference. And we were talking about it on Sunday. You got combine training coming up, camp training coming up. For you put your best foot forward, but just the guys who show up and train. Now, this past Sunday, it was a really nice day.
Yeah,
it was a little light. A
lot of excuses for people not to be there, but the guys that want to be there are there.
We're there, and we were watching it, and there were some killers there. Like in the line thing, defensive line. One of your coaches, Big John, the previous week had said, JP, we need some more defensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
So got some defensive linemen in there who were killers.
Yeah.
And
some good battles.
And the offensive linemen really held their own against some quality guys. And some of those guys are going to be playing high-level college football.
Yeah.
And you said, you're like, even the guys who don't look it are good.
It is.
And it is
continually over all my years watching. You can underestimate some of the linemen, but if they are trained properly and they know how to cut people off, use their hands and use their feet, it's not as easy as you think to get around somebody. That's why getting sacks in the NFL and college and high school, they're not, guys that are leading the sack category are 16 sacks, 20 sacks in high school.
Right.
And think about how many pass plays that they've rushed throughout a game.
Oh my God,
30, 40 times.
To get one.
Right. It's I had a guy years ago tell me, well, baseball's a lot harder because you can't, batting is so hard, and I was like, yeah, okay. Well, how about you rush a quarterback? How many times in a year? let's say they 30 passing attempts
times how many
times games, 300, and you get 16.
Yeah.
So now you get less than 1% of the time, and you're 3 to 1% of the time, somewhere in that range, and you're legendary in the NFL. Like, come on.
Exactly. It's pretty wild. And so that was fascinating to watch, and for you to go ahead and point that out. And you're absolutely right. If you're trained, right, and even if you don't want to play college football, if you want to be a good high school football player, contribute to your team, be a starter, be an all conference, be all state, possibly
be a member, be a contributing member to your team.
Correct.
Work on it, and it becomes really easy.
Yep. So we got that going on. We got a bunch of transfer stuff going on, and I'm sure we can talk about.
You talking about the college transfer portal?
Well, we don't really talk about the high school
or the high school transfer portal.
That's going on as well. But we got that going on. Right now, we have a guest joining us live, not in the studio, but there she is, Angela Parrott from Lincoln, Missouri. Angela, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You with JP and Matt.
Hello.
So I know Angela's son, met him at the Elite Football Combine back in March. And he did such a good job, by the way. I'm sure you're really proud of your son, Dawson, right? And so met Dawson, and Dawson just killed it. And so I was talking to him about possibly coming to the KC Varsity Combine in St. Louis, which is happening May 3rd. And he explained to me that you have a fundraiser going on that same day. So he wasn't sure he'd be able to make that. And then he told me the story about his brother, which his brother suffered from something called long QT syndrome, correct?
Yes.
Which is a heart issue. It's a heart rhythm disorder. Yes. And so he explained that to me and told me the story. And then he put me in contact with you. Your other son, Devin, right, suffered from long QT syndrome. And so through his struggles and his issues, you started a charity to help bring awareness about this. So go ahead and tell us about it's called Devin's Beat. So go ahead and tell us about Devin's Beat.
Okay, Devin's Beat is something that we started, in honor of my son, Devin. When we found out he had long QT, obviously it was a big shock to everyone, and no one really knew what it was. And then, he was at really high risk of cardiac arrest, and quite honestly, his doctor was really surprised that he didn't have to be resuscitated. He woke up on his own, but not only that, she was really surprised that he was still with us.
Right, but he's a football player as well, same as Dawson.
Yes.
And so, did this happen like after a practice, or?
No, he was actually just walking down the hall at school.
Wow.
He was in 4th grade, and basically he just kind of looked like he fell. But then when they got to him, they realized that he had blacked out. We took him to the doctor, and basically the first thoughts were maybe he was dehydrated, maybe low blood sugar. So they did some of those tests, and then we were leaving the doctor's office, and he asked if we wanted to maybe have an EKG just to kind of rule some things out. I'm kind of a helicopter mom when it comes to that kind of stuff. So my immediate response was yes, because I know what he eats and drinks. And even though he was extremely active, like, it wasn't anything outside the normal. So I just wasn't really comfortable with the dehydration side of it. So we did. And before we got out of the parking lot, we were told that he could no longer be active, and that he needed to be seen literally within the next few days. And so kind of a long drawn out process of waiting. The initial diagnosis was it's definitely long QT. We don't know what type he has. He can't be active anymore. Don't leave him alone for more than just going to the bathroom, like all of that. So I'm a researcher anyway, and I can't, if I can't wrap my brain around something, I just go for it. And so I just automatically started looking up stuff. They had given me information from the SADS website, which SADS actually founded long QT in 1980. And so I kind of had some people there. I was kind of messaging back and forth. I was going on there and reading the stories of, kids with the same kind of thing that either did make it or didn't make it. It was a long process, but that's kind of what got me started. And I just no one knew about it. If I told anyone Devin has long QT, they're like, what is that? They didn't even know it was a heart condition. So we just went from there. And 4 months later, we had a 5K in Lincoln, Missouri, which is about, 10,000 people, or I can't even remember, 1,100 people. Sorry, I'm very nervous.
No, you're fine. You're amongst friends.
1,100, not 500,000.
Right. I was going to be like, wow.
Research.
Right, right.
No. Sorry. Yeah, we barely have 500 kids in the school. So anyway, that first year it was just like, it was too quick probably, and I had people trying to persuade me to like push it off so we could have a bigger one. But I don't know. I just needed it to happen. I needed to get something done.
Sure.
And so we did, and we raised $10,000. And at the beginning, the money, I didn't know what we were doing other than raising awareness. And like, I was really big into wanting to donate back to SADS because they had a lot of good information out there for people. They also help with like AEDs and things like that. So that was kind of my passion. But in the back of my mind, I just really knew that I wanted to try to figure out how we could screen kids. It's kind of hard because there's a lot of doctors that don't want to do that. And it's not because they don't want to help save kids. They're just like, it's not feasible. Like how we can't go pull every kid out of every school system and screen them.
Right.
And, you know,
were there warning signs before, or was there anything like, is it just sudden?
So with him, so basically what we were told was that most of the time the first warning sign is actually death. There are warning signs of, you know, if your kid does pass out, it's not typically just a fluke. There are times that it happens, but like, you know, they don't want anyone to ever take that for granted. Like, don't just be like, oh, I just think he was tired today, or he just didn't eat enough today. Other warning, that's mainly that. So basically they say warning signs are, you know, passing out, or, you know, like if you have family history of anything like that. But with long QT, like Devin couldn't ever feel it. Now we did find out like later when the doctors were asking him, like, had he ever felt like that? Because all he remembers is waking up. He doesn't really remember anything before. And so he did say that one time when he was sick, he was at home watching TV, and he did remember like waking up and feeling weird. But that's the only one, and he doesn't feel anything in his heart. Like he doesn't feel any kind of arrhythmia or anything. So there's really for long QT, there's really no warning sign unless you're lucky enough to wake up.
So then are youth heart screenings recommended? How do people know about them?
So things like me, some of the research that I also did was with, there are other companies, I hate to call it companies, foundations all over. I know there was two big ones that I looked at in the beginning, and one was in California. And it's ironic because the kid that it's actually in memory of, his name was Devin too, just spelled differently. And then there was one in Arizona that I was really like intrigued in. So like I actually made contact with them, figured out how they could get it going. You know, doctors are kind of all over the place. It's not that they don't want to screen kids. It's anywhere between $2,500 to $3,000 to get an EKG and an echocardiogram at a doctor's office. So let's just say, I know at least one of you have a kid, but let's just say you're concerned now talking to me. You're going to take your kid to your physician and be like, hey, we want to get this test. And they're going to be like, we have to have a reason. So that's why we started what we started. So I work with a company out of Kansas City, or Kansas. They're called Midwest Heart Check. So basically we hire them to come in, and they have people that do the EKGs and echocardiograms. And then he submits everything online to a pediatric cardiologist. And that's how we do it. So the money that we raise pays them and their physicians, which they're like kind of a charity thing too. So it's at a discount. So like, I mean, for instance, I pay about $159 per kid to get tested, where at a facility you're talking $2,500 to $3,000.
And that's where Devin's Beat comes in to raise money for that. And I see where you've raised almost like $20,000 since then, and almost 2,500 kids have had the screenings.
Yes. Yep.
So that means that's amazing.
Yes, it is big. And I mean, we're growing. I mean, sometimes it's kind of hard because people don't understand, like, my kid was normal. He played 3 sports his whole life. I mean, we're the 4-year-olds on the soccer field, you know, that kind of stuff. And, you know, we would have never dreamed that this was something that could ever even happen to him.
Right.
And, you know, we're very blessed. We're very lucky that nothing happened before, that nothing did happen on a field or a court. because it's not just about his athletics. His is actually type 3, so he's actually more at risk when he's sleeping. So that's why they ended up implanting an ICD in his chest, because we can watch him, we can watch him
You can
while
monitor
awake,
him, right?
So but it's even the simple things like he can't take Benadryl. Benadryl causes temporary long QT. So a person with long QT, it actually makes it worse. So what long QT is it's an electrical part of the heart. So like when your heart beats and then it's supposed to go through a resting phase and then beat again, his is just the resting phase is really, really long, and then it beats before it's supposed to, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, that's my terms. If
right.
the doctor's watching this show, they're going to be like, no, she's wrong.
That's wrong. Okay. You're saying it for us lay people. So that's good.
That's a mama term. That's the way I understood it the very first time they told me. So that's what started all this. And it's just grown from there.
And Devin did go on to play not only high school, but college football.
Yes. So when we first found out, like, of course, we were all in mourning for a long time. And that's hard for people also to understand because we had our child. We knew we were lucky. We knew we were blessed. But, like, we lived and breathed. We still do live and breathe sports.
Right.
And that's what he loved. He loved football. Basketball was his favorite. Baseball, not so much. So when he had to quit, it was very, very devastating for him. So once again, in my late hours of research, I was like, there's got to be something that he can do that we can keep him involved. So then I, obviously golf, but he hadn't done that yet. So that's kind of hard to be like, here you go,
Right.
But I just started thinking about like kicking and punting, and it just kind of like snowballed from there. I started doing research, found David Brader online. I messaged him. He was all for it. So
he's the best. He's the best.
Yes,
yeah, we know. Yeah, we know. Yeah, and that's great
because I knew that he kind of did some stuff through Elite. So that's how he got started in kicking and punting, and that's what kept him in football. Slowly but surely. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and he played at Quincy. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. He punted there.
Yep. Nice.
That's awesome.
Very nice. So you have another son, Dawson, who's a high level athlete. Right. Who, I mean, he came and he killed it at the Elite Combine and put up some of the best numbers. Now, was there any concern about his health? Has he been screened or?
Yeah, he'll tell you he's been screened too many times. So yes, I've screened him a lot. He's probably had, I know we did the initial one. So here's another thing. Like if you do it, they screen ages 8 to 28 or 8 to 25. And if you do it before they hit puberty, most of the time it's recommended to do it again because kids' hearts do change over time. So that's like with Devin, we didn't know about his until he was 10, but he was born with it. So, we don't know if they could have detected it at 8, we don't really know. We think they could, but we don't know because there was no reason for him to get checked. So Dawson got screened when he was really little, and then he got screened again. And then we actually went through a scare with him where he was passing out. So we went again. But his what ended up being the, from pain or not really blood doesn't bother him, but whatever the vasovagal syncope is.
Vagus response.
So, yes, there you go. So that's what his ended up being, which was great. So he just has to, have more water. He's very active, obviously, more water, more salt, those kinds of things. So that was good. But there was a period of time, even though he had already been screened, that I was afraid that something was developing.
Right. So you have some events coming up, some fundraisers. You have the 5K walk bike coming up on May the 3rd, as well as a silent auction as well. And you also have a book that you've actually done. It is called Devin's Beat, an amazing story of strength, survival, and saving lives. People are interested in it. They can, get it and read the full story instead of just, a little version you're trying to tell us right now. There's way too much, which is why you wrote the book. So where can people go to find out about the 5K and the silent auction, to donate for the event, or to purchase the book? And you have the book on you.
I do.
There you go. Go ahead. Hold it up.
This is my copy, but yesterday 350 books were delivered to my house. Actually to my friend's house. But
nice.
So we have them. We're ready to start shipping them out. People can get it on Amazon too. It's a little cheaper, obviously, direct sale, but Amazon has them now, which is kind of cool. So for information on Devon's Beat, the best two places are my website, which is devonsbeat.com, and it's DEVON. I know some people spell it with an I.
Hold the book up again so people can see.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. There you go.
And then I also have a Facebook page too that I'm very active on. So it's on there. We put a lot of our items that we get for the auction on there. And we do have a live auction too, because we have a dance and stuff that night. So that's how we get a lot of our money. Yeah.
There you go. But people can just go ahead and donate if they want, though.
Yes.
Online.
And so on my website, there's a place where you can order the book. There's a Venmo link where you can donate to Devon's Beat. And I mean, every little bit counts. Like I said, it's about $159 a kid. I had a lady, maybe she's seen something on Twitter, or excuse me, X. I think she might be from the St. Louis region, and she's reached out to me yesterday or the day before. So I'm going to get in contact with her, and I'm hoping that'll get us to St. Louis, because we're trying to get further than here.
Very nice. Yeah. I mean, we might be able to hook up a space to bring awareness to it, or have screenings or something like that here. So, and your Facebook is your personal one, correct? Angela Parrott?
Angela Parrott, but I also have a Devon's Beat Facebook page.
Gotcha.
I have both.
All right. Well, Angela, we appreciate you joining us to talk about the issue, long QT syndrome, and bring about the awareness of screenings and your book. And everybody, I would recommend go out there and get it, because, I mean, that's the scariest thing in the world as a parent. And you know this, Matt, when something happens to your child, that's every parent's worst nightmare. And so, your story is a fascinating one. It definitely fascinated me when Dawson told me about it, and then you told me a little bit about it. So look forward to reading the book, and good luck.
Great.
And like you said, hopefully we can set something up and have a screening here, and keep it going.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Thank you for making us aware of it. Yes. Thank you very much.
There you go. So hopefully it wasn't as bad as you thought being on here.
I was a little nervous. I messed up a little bit, but
you're good.
It's all for a good cause. So that's
exactly.
Okay.
You're a published author now, so this is you getting your feet wet.
Yes.
There you go. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right. Bye bye.
Very nice. We're giving everybody their first interviews.
Yeah.
I gave Drew Lock his first interview. I gave Sheldon Richardson his. So you can add Angela
just add that to the list.
There you go.
I tell you what you hit the point. I mean, as a parent and as a coach, I mean, the one thing you don't know is what's walking in the door. And sometimes you just think, you go through the training for like USA football and things like that. And then you start hearing about like heart issues, sudden heart issues or heat issues, things on the field that you kind of like, but man, it makes your awareness go up, because I mean, at the end of the day, it is a game. You want to make sure everybody that leaves all in one piece, and everybody's all right. And it's just, life is fragile, right? And it's very, very fragile. And you want to make sure that everything you in your power, you do the best you can to protect those around you.
And you and I always look for that when we're at events or we're training guys, man. You look for the guy who looks a little off.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to your right-hand man, Nick, the other day about a kid who came in, who's a really big kid, 6'5", 330-pound kid. And he was sucking air in warm-ups, right? And grabbing his short, bending over. And I'm like, gotta keep
you gotta keep an eye on those guys. I mean, you don't know what they ate. I mean, something as simple as she mentioned it. Someone takes Benadryl for the allergies going on right now. They don't know anything about it, right? They get in there, they get their heart rate up. They got this, like sympathetic response going on in their body, like this fight or flight deal. Their heart's racing, their body's pumping blood because they're moving, and there's a medicine that's exacerbating the situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you go by the grace of God that everything works out for everybody. But unfortunately, sometimes things can happen, and unfortunately, that's sports, that's life, that's it. So but bringing awareness to
that's the key.
Especially like it's like if it can be prevented, right?
Right.
And Lord knows what else they're picking up on some of these other tests. They're testing for long QT. how many things have they probably picked up on kids that no one ever knew about, right?
Without question.
Because a normal physical,
that's why I hate getting physical.
Right, a normal physical for athletes, like for an athletic one, let's be honest, they kind of like, okay, you're good, okay, no heart murmur, you're good, right? Versus a full EKG and an echocardiogram, like you're gonna find there's things going on, and the assumption is because you're young, it's good, but sometimes maybe it's not.
Yeah, and we know of one tragedy's one too many, but we know of several where kids just find out the hard way.
That's horrible.
Where something happens, and so it is. But look at football, right? Here, Dawson showed up at the Elite Combine. Find out this story. We can help bring awareness to everybody.
That's part of the deal, right? I mean, that's part of what we want to do, and we want to bring awareness to not only the recruiting side of things or the
training
side of things or the coaching side, but the real life, like the real life stuff of life and death.
And that's what counts. And really, that's why we do it. And I don't know if a lot of people know that. I know there's a lot of people who get into it or try to get into it because they think it's cool or they want to be associated with it or whatever. But I mean, we're really legit in it to help people as much as possible.
I think if you think where we're coming from, as far as from the conversations we're having, I mean, the feedback we get constantly is, hey, it's educational. Thank you very much. I'm looking at some that you're aware of, but there's something I'm just doing a lot of research on, like what's out there for the average bear, right? We're like trying to get recruited, things like that. It is shocking the people taking people's money and not educating them. Right. And it's like, oh, we can connect you to college coaches. If it was as simple as that, then let me tell you, you and I know a lot of college coaches. There is a whole lot of things that have to happen. One, you have to know the process that you're involved in, right? Like what recruiting actually is, what your goal is, where you're trying to go. Two, you have to understand like what the landscape is and what the rules are.
Yeah.
And then three, you got to figure out like a fit for you.
You got to figure out the inner workings.
And then before all of that, you got to be working to prepare yourself to even be entertained.
One. Correct.
Right. And I think so many parents, and athletes, their goal is to get a scholarship. Let's be honest. Let's just call it the way it is. There's a social component to validation and things of that nature. When my son's going to here and plays this sport, or my daughter plays this sport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they're going to XYZ college. Oh, they have 35 offers. They have 100 offers. They have 2 offers, whatever it might be. There's a validation to that, right? And you and I, it's pretty apparent in where we're in. That's a big deal. But I'm sure the same thing goes on in the acting world and the dancing world, all that stuff. So for us, it's the football thing. But I think there's a social component where people are so wanting their kid to be the one that gets the scholarship to validate who they are and what they're about and, all that stuff. But a lot of that happens and they don't even understand that, like, the hardest thing is for your kid to get on the field. And the hardest thing for them is going to be able to ride the bull for 5 years at that school and stay on without getting kicked out or kicked off.
Right.
And I say that kindly. Right.
And then to get recognized. Like I had a kid this morning message me and he's asking me about, upcoming events, KC Varsity Combine, Lindenwood. And, they're just a sophomore this year and they're like, I've been to stuff. Is it worth me going? And that's like, do you want to play on the next level? Because now more than ever, it's more difficult than ever to get,
100%.
Recognized, to have your talent recognized, especially if you're at a particular school. And the school he's at's not a football school. Not a lot of kids get recruited out of that school. So they kind of get overlooked. So his best option, got to have coach's eyes on you, especially this time of year. If you're going to some event where people, even if it's free, right? Even if it's a cattle call for them to be able to say, hey, we got this guy's picture and here's a blurb about this guy or whatever. That's doing you nothing. No. You've got to go where college coaches
you have to have. Yeah, this time of year, once you get into the evaluation period, the camps and combines earlier in the winter have purpose because of their timing and what that means to the recruiting process.
Right. Well, once you go to the highly regarded ones,
correct.
Like Elite.
And once you enter into like this phase, right? So the two you're talking about, the KC Varsity and the St. Louis Metro Coaches Association, both are recruiting event. Their coaches there, right? And so you want to be evaluated, and yes, and sometimes, truthfully, you go to these things and you don't stand out, right? And it hurts your feelings, but that should be taken as, hey, I'm young, I got time, or it's, oh crap, I need to really
work harder.
I got to really work harder. So, like I'll give you a quick instance. At the St. Louis Metro Coaches Association, like 3 years ago, I'll never forget. Preston Brown was throwing, and Missouri Baptist head coach says to me, "Hey, who's that kid?" I was like, "Oh, he's a freshman, going to be a sophomore up at Hillsborough."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh man, he's really good." He's like, but way too young for him to talk to, right?
Right.
And and then he said something to the effect of like, "Well, he won't be around for us when he's a senior, right?" And he wasn't. But point being is, you kind of want to have those conversations about you when you're young, when they know that you're young and they're thinking, hey, yeah, there's no use in us recruiting this kid at this point, whether they can recruit you or not. You're still pretty young. But the fact that people are starting to acknowledge some of your strengths and they're intrigued by what you're doing, I mean, who knows? That coach could have been at 2 schools removed by then and another college, and now he's recruiting you at a school you want to go to.
Absolutely.
Right? And not that who knows? I mean, 3 years from now, like the NAIs and the D2s, like the way that they're going to be recruiting high school kids is going to be far different than they're recruiting them right now.
It's crazy. It really is. But a surefire way to not get recruited and to not get noticed is to not
stay
attend.
Home.
Right.
Stay home.
Right. Yeah. Not attend.
But you're just understand your excuses. Nobody cares about them. No one cares why you're not there. Right. You are there or you're not. And that's the same thing. Like when it comes to training, I learned long ago, like back in the day, I used to this is back in the early 2000s, late 90s. I would, on Saturdays, I would call all the guys and say, "Hey, you coming to training tomorrow? You coming to training tomorrow?" And but it was like real personal.
You were working it.
I was working it, but I knew that we would be successful if they showed up, but we needed people to train. Right. And so, in due time, we have more kids coming. But my response and my tactic is, sure, I could call those kids, but I've changed my mindset in the sense of, back then it was a shift of teaching kids that training was valuable. They didn't even know, right? It was not normal. Well, now kids know. They see it online. They see that you should be training, and we're the largest training organization in Missouri and if not the Midwest. And guess what? Like, if you want to come train, it's pretty obvious we're doing it. And your friends see it. You see it online. You see about a lot of your teammates and kids you compete with are posting stuff. So, if that doesn't intrigue you when you see one of your competitors training and getting better and doesn't make you want to get better, you probably just want to just play high school football for fun then. Which, again,
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Have a good time. Learn what you can learn from your coaches and your teammates and then carry that on into life. But if you think you want to play college football and you see other people getting better and it does not spark a fire in you, you might want to question what you're doing.
Well, with no doubt. And, just the climate that college football recruiting it is so difficult. I just saw a message where, a parent was saying about his son, school wanted to offer his son, and they mentioned something. I didn't read the whole thing. We just got sent it. About is he allergic to nuts, and didn't know if he could offer him because of something like that. I mean, it has really become micro as as to the reasons why they will or won't or can or can't recruit somebody. And I mean, the days of just being the high school hero, being the star quarterback at your high school, they don't recruit like that anymore. They don't know about stuff like that. So all this stuff, it's a pathway. It's no longer just, are you going to get recruited? You have to go ahead and formulate a pathway for yourself to get recognized, to be the best player you can, to have a shot. Because I got to tell you what, and yourself, there are guys who do all this stuff, and it's still difficult, a slog to try to get recruited. because they have all these options, right? They have guys wanting $4 million a year that they're willing to pay
after they've negotiated a $2 million contract for 4 years.
That's where we're at. So if they're talking about $2 to $4 million for a quarterback, right? What are they going to give you coming out of high school? And it's totally it's inverted. It's totally on its head. It's crazy town. What's going on?
It's bizarre. And you know, the problem is like the situation that happened at or is happening at Tennessee with
which is what I'm alluding to. Yeah.
Right. Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imanalava, however you pronounce it.
I was right.
He is a guy who was a trendsetter. He broke kind of the mold of, you know, getting the biggest contract coming out of high school.
Yep.
Only to turn around and demand that he needs more, which then leads it to he probably had on good confidence that somebody else was going to pay him. I would suspect that they'll let the dust settle for a week or two of the transfer portal, and he'll announce that he's going to some other blue blood program where he's going to get $4 million. Right.
Last I saw, though, and who knows how accurate it is, but last I saw, it was only 3 schools that were being mentioned. And one of them was Tulane, which I don't see Tulane having that kind of money. One of them was North Carolina, where they said, no, we're not interested. And I forget the third one, which was, you know, a higher level school.
I think he'll end up at Ohio State.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think they're going to pull that trigger on that kind of money?
I don't know. I mean, well, here's the thing. He may not make that kind of money.
Right.
He may change schools for the same amount of money or less money.
Right.
And wouldn't that be something?
That's a business deal.
That's where, you know, and I don't know his dad from Adam. I know some people that know him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly what he does for a living, but herein lies the problem. I'm sure he is, and I've seen this happen with other quarterback dads where they get involved in negotiating things and they are so in over their head, and they have agents, but they also, you know, kind of know best, right? So they're not even going to listen to the agent. And, you know, and unfortunately, you know, they're swimming in the deep end of the pool with people that, you know, have lawyers and have people that negotiate and you know, have multi-million-dollar budgets, and you're a guy running a household on, you know, a couple $100,000. That's a far pittance and cry between someone that manages legitimate money. Like, I've been through my fair share of negotiations over the years, whether it be on leases, whether it be business deals, whether, you know, and I'm no expert when it comes to that stuff, other than I know that you got to listen to what the legal representatives say so you don't get burned. You gotta trust your gut, but you also got to understand when you're in over your head. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing a lot of that. There's a lot of, you know, parents and people that know best that have zero idea what game they're really playing,
but unrealistic.
But they're going back to their buddies and back in the neighborhood and telling them, yeah, I did this, I did that, and we got this, we got that. Like, yeah, $2 million is a lot of money.
Yeah,
if you spend it and invest it in the right places.
Right.
If you waste it, it's just an apparition.
Quick. Yep.
It can go fast.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, I just think that the game it's an inflection point. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I really do want to know, though, did he leave, or was it mutual, or did they ask him to leave after?
Which is going on, and we've seen a bunch of that. I know I've seen a bunch of that this spring where they're running guys off. I mean,
100%.
That's what it used to be called. And what's funny about it is they're looking for an excuse. They're looking for an excuse with guys who just want to know what's going on.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean,
what are your future plans for me? If you're not hearing from your coach, right, about where you fit in, there's a good chance that they're wanting to part ways.
Well, here's the tough thing for the college coaches, as you see, is, you know, a kid comes in and says, hey, what's my future, right? Mm-hmm. And the coach, back in the day, there was a fairly static path to, like, okay, we know what we have coming in freshman wise. We know what we got ahead of you. We know where you are. It's safe to say you're probably number 2, and the next year or 2 years from now, you'll be the starter when this senior leaves.
Keep working, and you know.
So, you know, from giving the coaches a little bit of leeway, unfortunately for the players, that situation has changed. And so now, if you're asking, like, what's my situation? The coach, he's either going to lie to you and say, yeah, you're my guy.
Mm-hmm.
and then only to come get a better guy out of or older guy, not even better, but older, more mature guy out of the portal.
They want to keep you there until they know, right?
Correct. Or you could just end up being the guy, right? But they, some of these guys are not willing to tell kids like where they fit, and part of that is they may not know, because in their heart of hearts they know that the bailout card is going to get what? A transfer.
Yep.
And so I think what I do think is interesting. I listened to or watched. I think it was Drinkowitz was talking about like the state of the program after the spring game.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought when they got on the quarterback situation, I thought it was really interesting. I'm pretty sure the first thing he mentioned was like how well Matt Zollers was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then proceeds to mention how it's a 2 quarterback race between Horn and Bo Pribula.
Right.
And so, it was kind of like, hey, we have this high level. So for that one, he's trying to keep this guy satisfied that the freshman that's, 4-star, 5-star guy that, came in, he was hurt. He had a bad leg injury. And let me tell you, I've had quarterbacks who've had that injury. That's no joke. Like a compound fracture of the lower leg, tib fib, like compound. That's pretty significant. Yes, from a confidence standpoint, just a movement standpoint.
Yeah.
So, he was definitely cognizant of the fact he needed to mention something to him, because why? You spent that time, energy, and money. You don't want that kid leaving. You want to develop him. But the problem is if and this could be any program. It's not unique to Mizzou. But all that kid needs to do is look towards Horn, and then Horn gets beat out this year. He's gone, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, he lost out to Brady, which I think and they had some injuries. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, so like part of me I don't envy the coaches for what they're dealing with.
A lot of juggling going
There's
on,
a lot of juggling. I mean, and so part of me really is like, man, that would suck to have to manage that, right? And then the other side of it is man, but then you can go find guys. But if you find guys that aren't better, you've created a really toxic environment. So I know it's not an easy thing for them to navigate, and they're learning as they go. But yeah, I think.
You have any idea of what Zollers making?
I don't know. I've heard that Bo Pribula is like north of $1 million and a half.
Yeah.
So I would think to get a high school 4-star,
I know they were
at least $1 million,
and they were pretty high on him. And I know he took that official visit to Penn State. So I don't know if that was like a negotiating tactic or.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had to up the ante a little
my
bit.
guess would be he's north of $1 million. I mean, I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, for what I've been told, like with this new revenue model, if they ever pass it,
right.
Well,
think about how things are without it. I mean, where's it gonna go?
Well, this is what I think is interesting is I have heard numerous people say that once they implement that, then the schools are going to try and lock the kids in and only pay them out of the university money.
Right.
But there's no way that works. I mean, that is not a free market activity, because at that point you're working with the salary cap. But the NIL component is very clear. Like the federal government has said, you cannot interfere with someone. They're going to have like a clearinghouse. Anything over $600, they're going to manage. Okay, fine. But if someone wants to pay you $2 million over the top to do whatever,
you can't stop that.
How could they stop that? Yep. And so I think it's very naive. Whether the government, I guess that the government steps in, but once they create some sort of commerce clause, and they're not going to go back on it. They can't. Like there's too many other moving parts, and I think that the NCAA again and the member institutions are going to get themselves another ball of
lawsuit
crap, if you will.
Yeah.
And so like the latest lawsuit that's going on, I'd have to pull it up, but I read about this morning. It'll blow your mind. There's four guys suing. They all played in the state of North Carolina. A couple maybe at Duke and maybe one at North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of these guys started 45 games, college. Okay. Eligibility is done. Yep. 5 years done. They're suing on the grounds, wait for this, that they can't go to the NFL because they're not good enough. But one of them made, let's say, $100,000. But if he stays another year, he'd probably make $400,000 to $500,000. So they're suing basically using what I was just saying about commerce. Like when people interfere with the government, is pretty clear about like antitrust and things like that. They can interfering in commerce, like if it's legal, commerce.
They're suing to be able to stay.
They're suing to be able to stay, and
to make that money.
Yeah, but that's to their point. Why would I be precluded from making this money and this entry point if I can't go there? I mean, I'm going to go to the XFL or UFL, make 50,000,
right. And we talked about that last
time. Stay here and make 500. Now the problem is they do have to draw a line somewhere, but there's so many gray areas that it's turning into an alternate professional football
which
league.
Is where it's going to be. And we've said for a while, corporations are just going to take over these teams, and they're going to be separate from. They're going to represent the university, but they're not really going to have anything.
No, they're going to be subsidiaries of the university,
exactly,
for sure. And
so they'll still have the name in it, but it's going to be like the IBM, Missouri Tigers, or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. The world is crazy. To me. It makes following college football less enjoyable.
Oh,
you know,
100%.
I mean, you and I know how the sausage is made, so that already made it less enjoyable, right? Because we know the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. This stuff is just really over the top, and it's crazy. And the transfer stuff, the money's one thing, just the transfer thing, the situation where guys are getting run off and guys are having to leave. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, look at Mizzou this past week. Ja'Kai Lang, Talon Chandler, both guys we know very well, elite combine guys, trained. Talon was a long time trained at elite, both leaving Mizzou.
Jamarion Wayne
leaving Mizzou, local guys, which is going to be interesting how that pans out, because it's not like Mizzou was like, just knocking it out of the park with the local guys anyway. And so you think you'd want to make sure you keep those guys at least on the team,
right?
To be able to go
continuity.
Back home.
And you will see over the years, historically, when Mizzou is at its best, their role players, their key players, and then the key role players are St. Louis or Kansas City guys with some Southeast Missouri and Southwest Missouri guys, more Southwest.
Yeah,
but it'll be interesting to see. And then, speaking of keeping those guys, I mean, I think the big news recruiting locally in the state is Jackson Cantwell gave his Final Four. He narrowed it down.
Yep.
Got a couple of thoughts on that, but he narrowed it down to Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and Miami. Oddly enough.
Yep. Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. See, I mean, doing what I do, paying attention to it, I am not surprised in the least. And I know a lot of Mizzou fans are upset. They thought, Dad, we went to Mizzou, Mom went to Mizzou.
Mm-hmm.
He's been there, knows. I knew this was going to be the case, because he's too high level of an athlete, and cover your ears if you don't want to get bad, but he wants to go to an elite program because he's an elite caliber athlete and player, right? He not only wants to be the best player he can, he wants to play for a national championship. And if you're honest with yourself, is Mizzou going to compete for a national championship in the next 2-3 years?
No, because they have to get those guys just like him.
Exactly. Who will? Georgia.
I see him.
Ohio State.
I could see him end up at Oregon because of the track program, though.
Maybe so. I'm leaning towards Georgia. I think I know he likes Georgia a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Been there a bunch of times. I think he's probably going to wind up with Georgia. I'm sure. I mean, Jackson's a friend of the show, so I'm sure he'll come on and talk all about it. He loves,
Oh yeah, he's
loves to chop it up.
And part of me, when I saw that he didn't put Mizzou in there, I thought to myself, like, look, probably a smart move, rather than drawing it. If Mizzou's not truly in his top 4, because maybe there's that number 2 and 3 are really like fillers, or 2, 3, and 4,
right.
and he knows where he's going.
Right.
At least he didn't draw it out with the University of Missouri and make it painful when he makes the decision
Correct.
The day of. So
pull the hat.
I think that there was probably some thought process to that when it wasn't a Final Four.
Sure.
And again, wishing the best of luck. I think he's going to do really good wherever he goes. And I think, again, as much as the Mizzou fan in me would love to see those guys stay, you understand the landscape.
Yeah.
It sucks. I think some things have happened prior in recruiting, like with how Mizzou has to treat some of those in-state, like high-level guys. And I think some things from how they how they structure their deals maybe are not
can't keep
they
up.
can't I don't understand that, but I think they got burned on a couple, so I think they gotta I think they're a little more cautious with how they approach it.
Right.
So but I don't know, I think it's obviously that's a kind of a big blow because you would love to see those guys selfishly stay in state,
Right.
but you also understand
yeah.
that there's reasons why people do what they do.
And he's a smart kid. This is a well thought out decision.
I would
on his
agree with
part.
that.
And the programs that he's considering, his final programs, all have one thing in common. Besides, they're going to compete for the national championship. They all got a lot of money, right? And so that's just the way college football is going to be.
That's how you show people you love them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, I mean, good for him. It's going to be interesting to find out. So he's not going to go to Mizzou. You know, are some of the other top guys? Is it Titan Davis going to consider Mizzou? I know he likes Michigan a lot. You know, going to take a visit there. Like some other school, Indiana's popping up on a bunch of kids' radar lately. Purdue with local kids. Those two schools is Jacob Eberhardt. You know, he's got family ties to both Mizzou and Illinois. He would be my number 3 guy in the state after Titan and Jackson. You know, what's he going to do? And guys like that. And then you have a guy like a Rocco Marriott, right? Who, what we talk about, where it's harder than ever to get noticed and recruited, especially for quarterback. It's the craziest thing. And that's your specialty. And it's not just him. It's all these quarterbacks who schools would kill for in years past, who they're just like, well, we can get him after he goes to,
let's let him get seasoned for 3 years.
Miami University, bingo. Or even 1 year. If he goes in there and just blows up, then everybody's going to love you and want you to come on in. But it's the craziest thing. And talk about that. I mean, just the level of talented quarterbacks that are having a difficult time picking up the P4 offers.
I mean, the state of Missouri right now, who has historically pumped out some pretty darn good quarterbacks, especially out of our area, those guys are having issues getting offers. Like, there's no secret. Like, you look at Rocco, he's gotten some traction, but definitely not the school levels that you would kind of think.
No.
Nothing against those schools.
Right.
Brett Ottensmeyer, you got Brennan Shasheen.
Yep.
You got Sam Dean. There's guys that you go, okay, hey, look at what their body of work is. Put them against other kids. And that's the one thing is, like, you'll every once in a while, like, you'll be at a 7-on-7 tournament. You're like, oh, that kid's got an offer to such and such.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a kid last weekend in Chicago. These multiple offers, younger kid, think sophomore, maybe he's gonna be a junior. And he's got multiple offers, and I'm like, mechanically, that crap ain't gonna work.
But he was deemed worthy.
Yeah.
The guy, he was anointed a guy who is worthy of those guys offering.
And then mechanically, stuff that's not gonna project real well to the. And again, this isn't golf where you go, oh, that guy's got Fred Couples has a different swing than Scotty Scheffler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, Fred Couples is 70 years old, but the reality of it is they don't have people chasing them, and there's no one worried about how long it takes them to hit a shot. Yeah. It only matters where it goes. In football, it does matter what your release point is. It does matter how long it takes you to get rid of the ball. It does matter how accurate you are.
More now than ever,
right? And so. But I see guys that miss on quarterbacks constantly. And I was talking to, one of my good friends is an NFL scout, and we probably had an hour conversation on Sunday about it. And then we talked Saturday. And it's like, there's so much misinformation or misunderstanding about what the mechanic is and isn't. And I think that there's a major disconnect, right? And I think that's why I love talking to him, because then he gives his feedback and like kind of what they're looking for. And like things that they see, right? And then I give like real, like ours is from a developmental standpoint, like things that we know are failure modes and things that you can fix, and some things that are really hard to fix. And especially as they get older, the athletes get older, it gets really hard to change. So see, like a guy patting the ball, if that's not your thing, if you don't like it, it gets hard to break that habit for guys that use that as their rhythm to pass, right? But yeah, I don't envy those guys in that position and their parents, because like we talked about, it does not make it any easier. But 3-4 years ago, these guys are sitting with 15, 20 offers
without question.
And now, they're looking for a committable offer.
Exactly. And what it is you have the college coaches bypassing the good or the great in search of the perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to find it. And they're not going to find either. And they're just going to go overpay a transfer, a backup transfer, and eventually down the road. I mean, that's such a horrible model.
So what they do is they fight over the same 35 kids that somebody anointed, right?
Yep.
Early in their careers. I mean, I can see my son Braden is in 8th grade. I can see it already. The kids that they're anointing.
Yep.
Right. And I can pull up their film and be like what? Okay, so where did you see them that showed you? Because I'm watching because every college coach you talk to, film is what matters. But I'm telling you, a high percentage of kids that get recruited, it cannot be off their film, because if you watch their film, you're like, what in the hell is that?
What are they looking at? Yeah.
And so again, I always call it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once somebody buys off, and then they make that, they want to see you be successful, right? So yes, at the college level, back in the day, they would even ramrod you through the system. Now they're not doing that, essentially because they have other guys they can bring in, and you're expendable. So they pay you what they need to pay you, market wage. If it works out for you, great. If not, I mean, Brady Cook caught that sucker at the tail end of how it worked for him. That won't work for anybody in the next 3 to 5 years. No. It won't. It will not. That whole how it worked for him, God love him, and I know what he put in to do that, and he earned every single bit of it. But I'm telling you, the way that this thing is going, a new head coach comes in. If Drinkwitz could have come in, he would have immediately snagged 2 or 3 transfers.
Yep.
And he couldn't because the rules were not in place to do that.
And Brady would have transferred out. Yep. Not necessarily by his choice.
Correct.
Yep.
Instead, he stuck it out. Drink stuck with him, through trials and tribulations, and he killed it. And you know what the end result ended up being?
21 wins, and
and Drinkwitz got a extension, and making a lot more money. So are his other coaches. I mean, everybody wins. Brady leaves. He's gonna go to the NFL. I still cannot. The knock on him, I don't understand. I know I'm biased, but man, you compare him to some of these guys that are the top guys. There ain't much line of delineation, and he is a better athlete than all of them.
Right.
I mean, there's no debate in that.
There's not. And if anybody who watched the combine where they were throwing, he's right there. He's right there.
And he's more athletic. And by the way, look at the runs, the keystone runs that dude had in big games.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
he's right there, right? He's more athletic. And he's not going to give you the problems that those other guys walk around with the swagger.
He's got none of it. Right.
He's got none of it. He's a model citizen.
But you know what? It's the same thing. It's like the real good-looking girls love the bad boys, right? So they're attracted to the people they're trying to fix, right?
Right.
They want to. They're attracted to. So coaches fall into that too. It's like, well, have you dealt with me? I can fix him. Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And you know how many of those guys' careers have ended together because of that? A lot.
Right.
But it's just
they're nobody's wanting to fix you when you're coming out of high school as a quarterback. It's the craziest thing ever. And I mean, these guys are picture perfect. You talked about Brett Ottensmeyer. I watch him during 7-on-7, and I'm like,
what do you want?
What are they not seeing that what is it? And it's just like I said, they're bypassing the good and the great in search of the perfect that's not out there. Because I'm telling you right now, some guy who's played 2 years as the third string guy at Purdue is not going to be as any more productive in the grand scheme of things than Ottensmeyer or Marriott. They're just not.
Right. And the problem is I think Marriott did do it. So but here, look at this. He's got a few more offers.
Yeah.
He played as a sophomore, maybe a freshman. Did he play a little bit as a freshman?
A little bit.
But more as a sophomore.
Senior. Yep.
Brett didn't play a ton until he was a junior, because they were a sophomore. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he was a sophomore, they had a senior. Now more than ever, you almost have to play as a freshman or sophomore. You cannot wait to your junior year. And which is horrible because at the end of the day, what does it matter if the guy's good? Is he good? Like what's it matter?
You gotta, which makes it trickle down to what high school is my kid gonna go to that's going to give him the best advantage of making. 100%. I mean, it's crazy. So get out there, train, listen to and watch the Football 360 show as we enlighten you on this kind of stuff. A couple other things. I heard that Ja'Kai Lang was going to visit Colorado and SMU. Heard some stuff about Talon, but I don't know if anybody wants to mention that or not. So we won't mention that at all.
He'll have plenty of suitors.
Right. The high school football coaches, they're starting to pick up. Their dominoes are starting to fall. So we're Sean Gaines got the Columbia battle job, but he's back home up there. A few more are going to be announced. They're laying in wait. I guess they're just what the administration has to approve it, the final write-off approval, and you're going to see that like boom, 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 and they're going to have to because next month everything starts rolling. I mean, I'm talking to some kids and they're not doing anything.
Nothing.
Right? They're just all.
There's a lot of teams that don't have coaches changes. They're not doing anything in the spring.
Either. So the kids are having to go out on their own and just do whatever work they can, which is very admirable, and I highly recommend. If your coach doesn't want to do anything, let
me tell you too. Even if you're doing spring practices, that's a lot of it's teamwork and there's installs, things like that going on. Do not mistake that with skill development.
No,
that's a bad mistake. Do not mistake it. I promise you. You want to be ready to roll when you guys show up to camp.
I want to be ready to roll the next couple of weeks because April 26th, the first KC varsity is happening at St. Pius in Kansas City.
Yep.
And there's always some guys from St. Louis who travel on over there, and mostly they're elite guys. They're elite trained guys.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Josh Baker going over there and just putting on a
clinic,
a show for his first rep in one-on-ones. He wasn't Josh, and so I went over to him. I'm like, "Hey, what were you taught?" And boom,
killing people.
Then he was on. And then after that, May 3rd in St. Louis, that one you want to go at KCVarsity Combine.com for that. St. Louis Football Coaches Association showcase is happening on the 12th.
Go to EliteFootball.net. It's on the main page.
Yep. And then the Big Daddy Lindenwood Camp. Go to Lindenwood Camp.
Yeah, you can even go on Elite's homepage. It's on there as well.
Nice.
Just a direct link.
Yep, absolutely. Wow, that's great. That's great news. And that one's good filling up. I saw pretty quick.
Yeah,
you don't want to miss that one.
Do not.
No matter what.
So hey, real quick, we had 2 weeks ago. We were in Chicago for 7-on-7.
Mm-hmm.
We have our last tournament coming up this weekend in Indiana. Going to go see Purdue on Friday, which should be fun. We got to go to Northwestern. Which was cool to see, world-class facilities, unbelievable. We had some really
red carpet.
Yeah, we had some really cool. We had a cool experience in Chicago. We have 3 18U teams, and our one yellow team lost by a point at the last second. It was one of these call type things. So if they would have won, it would have put 4 teams in the semis. It would have been all boom teams. It'd be 3 St. Louis and 1 Chicago. So it ended up being 2 St. Louis teams and 1 Chicago team. Boom out of it. So we had our purple team and black team.
Purple team is crazy.
They played a triple overtime against our black team.
Oh,
and got the win. I mean, narrow win, just battle. And the black team was throw for throw, blow for blow with them. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of good kids, and it's across all 3 of the 18U teams and 15 and 14. But they ran out of gas. I mean, they played the Chicago team was deep. They're all kids that slept in their own beds the night before. They're good. They're well versed. They know what they're doing. But yeah, it was a good battle. So we got one more to go. But yeah, that our purple team has had a
purple team's great. Yeah. So we're purple team cornerback Raheem Floyd just picked up an offer from Illinois. So congratulations to him. And
hopefully some Purdue offers will be handed out this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And so that'll do it for today. It goes by fast. Like I said, fastest hour football talk on the planet. There's our social media, JP Rock MO on X. JP Rock's got you on Instagram. Catch Matt at
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
All things Football 360 Show, football360show.com. Catch the podcast if you saw this and you just want to listen to it in your car like Matt does all the time, every time. You don't listen to radio no more. It's just a podcast.
It's constant loop.
Apple, Spotify. It's a constant loop in our head,
yes,
as you know.
Yes.
So reach out, subscribe on YouTube as well. Follow us on X, all that good stuff. That does it for us. Everybody enjoy your week. Hopefully the weather picks up at some point. It's got to get warm at some point, right?
Stop raining.
Yep. Thanks to Angela Parrott for joining us. Check out her book and her website, Devin's Beat, devinsbeat.com. Catch her on Facebook as well. Everybody, it was a pleasure. For Matt Bierman, myself, JP Rock. Look at that. Producer Joe on it. devinsbeat.com. Producer Joe, who's going to be shooting some photographs and some video coming up here a few weeks at the KC Varsity Combine, May the 3rd. Don't forget, that'll do it for us. We're a little long, but that's all right. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.